Welcome to today's training. What we're going to be talking about is it that some people are okay with certain foods and other people tend to turn for them for emotional reasons or binge eating reasons? Because this is something that a lot of people are struggling with. Sometimes it could be envy for some people that are able to eat the ice cream and the chips and to feel great in their bodies. But for them, if they have that food at home, they are not able to just have one cookie or just one ice cream. It's like an all or nothing, especially when we're going through a stressful situation. This is a big issue. So today I'm going to clarify for you what is the difference between people that are able to have one or two cookies and move on with their day and other people that they have one, two, and then they get off track and they end up eating the whole box of cookies. My name is Dina. I am a body balance coach. I'm actually a nutritional therapist and clinical dietitian that has been helping people for the past 20 years reach food freedom by creating personalized health plans for them so they can actually get off the dieting roller coaster, the dieting lifestyle, actually not have to spend hours in therapy and build that life free from food and being able to keep a box of cookie at home and even forget about it. So let's talk about emotional eating, binge eating, okay? This is a big thing and a lot of people, this has created so much like back and forth with a lot of people. So the reason why some people struggle with food and others, the reason why some people struggle with food and others do not struggle with food is that it has nothing to do with food per se. Okay, so somebody who is okay with the cookies and somebody else who is not comfortable with having cookies because they end up losing track, it has nothing to do with the cookies. It has to do with, number one, how you see that food as good or bad, because there are no good foods or bad foods, and I'll talk about that in an instant. Number two, it has to do with how you view the food or what are the habits you built around the food. So number one is how you view the food. Number two, what is that habit you built with that food? And number three, that a lot of people don't actually talk about is what is your history? Where is the pattern? When did that food come into your life as a coping mechanism? So let's talk about number one. Number one, I want to talk about there's no good food or bad food because there isn't. We need to get that out of the way. Unless you're allergic to a food, unless you're intolerant to a food, there are no good foods or bad foods. And this is the thing. When you see all foods under the same platform, and if you would eat one apple or if you'd eat one cookie, you're not going to lose track with the cookie because you're seeing them all in the same way. So I can go so much into detail with this, but this is something that I go really in depth with a lot of my clients, the group coaching or the one-on-one programs, because we need to kind of break down how we're seeing that food, because I am sure that when you're emotionally eating, you're binge eating, you're not going for the carrot, you're not going for the apple, you're not going for that salad, you are going for those foods that you label as bad. And that when you get off track, you're like, might as well, let me just have everything possible and I'll get back on track on Monday. Because if you put all the foods on the same platform, that there's no good food or bad food, there's just food, you will not be tempted to eat those foods in larger quantities just because you had one cookie. You see where I'm going with this? So this is number one, is how you are viewing the food. Number two, okay, we're talking about your habits around food. For example, very often our habit with food is like, today is a cheat day and I can just eat as much as possible. So when we go for that pattern of a cheat day, and a lot of the dieting industry does that, you go for that big cheat day, you kind of let go. You're like, oh, I'm not going to have the salad, the carrots, because I eat that, Monday to Friday. And then Saturday, you're just having all those forbidden foods that are created from the diet. But as well, what are the habits in terms of lifestyle habits? I had a good day, let's go celebrate. I had a bad day, let me go buy something. I need to maybe pass the time, I'm going to eat something. Or every time I'm watching TV, I'm eating at the same time. So you're kind of building all these habits around food, where food is no longer just food. Food is a habit. Food is a reward. Food is just something that adds in as an activity. Okay? But the number three, the biggest thing that creates that biggest breakthrough for people that I'm working with is, yes, we're working through their beliefs around food, right? Good food, bad food. The second thing that we look at is, what are those habits? What are those kind of like joint things that you feel food always has to be part of? And number three, we need to look beyond the food. We need to look at when in that point in time did food become a coping mechanism, because nobody emotionally eats or binge eating and plans it and is like excited about it. There is a coping mechanism. There is a search for help. There is a search. It's a cry. It's really a cry for help. But what happens is that we're not able to kind of voice out what we're going through, that we end up stuffing it down with food, because food does have an anesthetic habit, an anesthetic relationship with your body. So when you have sugar, when you have carbs, it does calm down your system. And as well, when you're going through that binge eating and you're eating, instead of feeling that emotion that you are avoiding to feel, you are deciding, I'm going to eat as much as possible in a certain way in a trance mode. And then you're going to be feeling too full. So you can actually focus on the fullness and not think about that trauma, that emotion that you're avoiding. This is why food is not the problem. This is why by breaking down the dieting, by breaking that you have to restrict, by understanding how your body's working, this is when you're actually able to get to that root relation that you built in. And this is not about digging into your past and understanding and doing, hypnosis. It's all about understanding that food came in, let it be emotional eating, binge eating, it came in as a coping mechanism, as a survival mechanism. When you are probably at a very young age, that it was the only thing that was available to you, because food is always there. You can eat as much as you want, not eat a lot. You can purchase it. There's a lot of freedom around food. So this is something that for many people is an easy coping mechanism to go to. And when you're able to understand, saying, okay, I am using food because food is not the problem. I know I built some habits of I'm eating and always there's an activity related to it. But I understand that I built food as a coping mechanism, and it's not by digging down to the past that's going to help me. It's more, am I ready to feel that emotion? Am I ready to replace food with something else? And am I ready to actually be free from the food, be free from the emotion that's dragging me down? So there's 3 levels. To be honest, there's so many different levels depending on what you're going through. But these are the 3 big things that we go into deep and details when I work with clients. Changing that way that you see food, changing the habits around food, and understanding that food is a coping mechanism, like drugs, like alcohol, like gambling, like online shopping, like over-exercising, like restricting for anorexics. It's a coping mechanisms to gain some control in a certain way or stuff down the emotion, an emotion of a trauma that probably you went through and you're not ready to deal with, and we don't necessarily have to deal with it. But we need to start feeling that emotion and start changing that habit of the food coming in. Do you see where I'm going with this? You want to displace it and change the coping mechanisms, but you want to make sure that the way that you see food and the habits that you have are starting to change, and then it's going to create this kind of likeness as you're changing your coping mechanism that is around food. So this is why if you've ever done diets and you're always yo-yo dieting and you've tried so many things and nothing is working, it's because dieting is not the answer. Restricting is not the answer. Diving deep into your history of what's going on is not the answer. It's creating a proactive approach of actually understanding what are the struggles that you're going through, what are the habits, the patterns keeping you stuck in the emotional eating and binge eating, and actually having a personalized plan to get you out from it. Because if you don't follow something personalized or something that is scientific and proven, it's going to be very hard to get out of that pattern, and you're always going to be stuck in that dieting, that yo-yo dieting, that guilt and so on that's happening. So if this is speaking for you, if right now with all the stress and the anxiety that we're going through, you are done with the struggle. You are done being stuck at home and having all this food and feeling like you're eating because it's the only thing to do, reach out to me. There are amazing ways that we can work together to build a personalized plan. Let it be a one-on-one coaching, let it be 30-day coaching, let it be 90-day coaching, or even joining my group coaching program. They are all amazing ways for you to start creating that transformation, because the moment is now to decide right here, right now, that we are done with the struggle and we're ready to move forward in the right direction. So if this resonates with you, message me. We'll get on a call and I'll see what is the best option for you. And if you know exactly already how you want to work with me, just message me, tell me how, and we can start scheduling our first session. So on that note, I wish you a beautiful and a balanced day. Do know that food is not the problem. Food is there helping you to deal with a certain emotion that is happening. And we need to kind of break free from that pattern and become free and feel the emotion and get beyond that emotion, that we don't always have to go for food, for numbing, for struggle, for stuffing it all down. So message me if there's anything, and I will see you in the next training.